Alright. Yeah, this is Dave from Davey Mackey's Plato's Cave on WZZR, coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio, where it's home to fresh, unfiltered ideas and conversations that you'll find in the chat room. Right now, live, where I am, I can see UFO Cowboy, Maced. I saw a hijacker back there a little while ago. We're having a good conversation. You can join us in there while we're on air. How cool is that? You got to be there. It's the station's website is also a great place, not only for the chat room, but to get your merch. So jump in and get your merch. Get yourself something. Support the station, because this is listener funded. Now, if you don't have the means to be able to support the station, then tell others about the station. That helps. And I'm going to tell you, you can just jump in the archives for free, right? And you can download something. And you could make a TikTok out of like 15 seconds of audio and attribute it, as long as you have Revolution Radio there in some way. Maybe the hosts. That'd be pretty cool. Make them say something crazy that goes viral. Do that. I don't know what I'm talking about. You know what? You can catch Mecky and I on air, online, and anywhere on your smart device. So grab a listen to anywhere, or just sit at home, put your feet up, relax, and listen to us through Gray's Tabletop Digital Radio. Now I'm broadcasting out of Dark and Junk Country, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and future. All right, intro done and done. Hi, Maced 139. Now, Mackey's actually on his way today. He was on his way last time, but on his way meant much longer time than I was willing to accept. Yeah, and I don't think we're going to hear the tale tonight, because I think he was seeing Beauty and the Beast. That was a gift from his wife from when his birthday was, all that time ago. And he goes, "Oh, how long do they go for, these things?" Right? And that was pretty cool. So, yep, love your work, buddy, and safe trip, don't speed, coming home. And if we're still on the air, I've already included you in a call, so you can just jump straight into it when you do arrive. Now, two main things today I wanted to talk about was and thank you for UFO Cowboy. I did see that in my feed, but it's about the mRNA Nobel Prize for Medicine. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you about were those little, looks like plaster of Paris aliens. I'm not saying they're made of plaster of Paris. It kind of looks like it. They're very small, diminutive. And I want to talk about those. So I think what I'll do first is talk about the Nobel Prize. Let's see if something actually appears when I type. That's better. Type in the right place. Medicine. This is an exciting show. mRNA. Nobel Prize in Physics. No. Impossible Breakthrough. No, that's not the one. Here it is. I knew I'd find it. Alright, so this is this year's Nobel Prize in Physics rewarded. The experiments with light that capture the shortest of moments. No, that's not there. Now, why is the heading? Tiny time scale. It's incredible. Previous winners. I thought it was an anti-vaxxer prank. What? Nobel Prize goes to scientists behind mRNA COVID vaccines. And that was from 13 hours ago. Thank you. Now I'm going to put that on screen for those of you who are watching from home. Let me see, middle screen. Yes, that works perfectly. Excellent. Now, the Nobel Prize in Physiology or medicine has been awarded to a pair of scientists who developed the technology that led to the mRNA COVID vaccines. Professors Caitlin Carrico and Drew Weissman will share the prize. The technology was experimental before the pandemic, but now has been given to millions of people around the world to protect them against serious Yeah, okay, well, I'm not going to bother reading the rest of that. I'm sure. Warning that COVID will continue to surprise us. Don't really care how it works. We all are more well versed than that. That's for the history books. Just saying, in the story, they did describe there that the work prior led to this mRNA being used to create spike proteins. It's not the only thing, but by giving it to 7 billion people and having a fringe of people who are outside of that 7 billion who were negatively impacted by it, the vaccine itself, or traits from the vaccine, not sure which. I don't think it was the technology itself. I think maybe there's still something inherently wrong with creating spike proteins en masse, and for how long, don't know. But those studies have not happened. Anyway, it's not a beat up on the vaccine. What this is it was the largest single study of something new to humans that the world has ever seen. Never have we had this kind of population size, and never before has it been that everyone's had to have something. So, what does this mean? Now, I was talking to a fellow at work today about CRISPR, CRISPR, and what it can do for you. Now, I'm not going to do too much here. Suffices to say, just suggest that in Wikipedia, the thing that I detest the most is Wikipedia, but CRISPR is basically an ability to inject you with an mRNA substance that has a genetically engineered cleaver and replacement DNA strand. That's the easiest way to describe it. You can read this all you like. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can read what that says. You know what to look for. It's pretty easy. But post-pandemic, at the beginning of this year, I think it was, my goodness me, time flies, the company called Beam and Pfizer joined to do this. Now, from what I understand, whether it's true or not, it could be just a rumor, that Beam was part of a DARPA project, research project. I don't know whether that's true. Could be just a conspiracy theory only, not fact. But that the two of them together have decided to fund CRISPR and take it to where it can go. They've claimed that the first thing that they're going to try to do with the CRISPR technology is being able to edit genes in a person while you're still alive. So you could actually change someone's eye color while they're alive without surgery, a few injections, probably a whole series of injections, and that it would, because it's got to touch all your active cells to be able to make that happen. Now, in your eyes, it's got to get to your eyes, and it has to change the DNA of those cells, and on next replication, they'll replicate to the newly desired changed form. It's like side loading. If you're an IT person, side loading means you write the files to it and an instruction on the next reboot to replace the files with the ones you've loaded. So side load doesn't come in through the front door. It's basically placed they're ready for a reboot, and then they're going to be adopted next time, right? And that's what happens. So CRISPR will they're going to get all the genetic disorders and try to erase them, so that once you've decided, like say you had, I don't know, a liver disorder or something like that, that they can remove that, they can delete it, basically writing over the gene sequence that causes you to have the thing. Since we're only code, this is the same as, you know, an 8-year-old kid deciding that they're going to look at the code for the game they're going to play and give them ultimate life, or change how many lives they get. Or, for instance, another one, in a sim that I run, people were changing gravity so that their cars would stick to the road better, because, you know, 0.1 extra is more downforce and more stickiness to the track, and they were winning, being able to outturn people, and, you know, that was successful for them until they changed the checksums to look for things that shouldn't be changed. Let's put it that way. Now they have that was short-lived, those hacks, but, you know, there you go. So CRISPR, big thing, and mRNA led to this as being public. Now, I remember talking about CRISPR for probably 10 years, and it was all under the covers. Here we go. By 2000. So I remember at least 10 years ago we were talking about it, and that was when the show started, pretty much 11 years ago, 10 years ago. So yeah, it's very interesting to see the evolution of it come to where it is today, and they can now deliver it pretty easily, and you can only imagine what is possible. I always thought that what you could do, if you were very interested in doing it, you could change things about people, and it wouldn't necessarily have to be positive. Just think about how that might work. How you could deliver something negatively towards someone. There isn't a test that can look to see whether you've had that happen to you. If that makes any sense to you, then consider it for what it is. Anyway, so I had to bring that up. It's an important step forward, I think. Not the mRNA, and don't connect the vaccines with mRNA. They were a delivery method, but think about where this can go in the future. Now, if you think the mum and pop corner, CRISPR store is going to sell you. I'm not saying that they're doing it, but think about the future where Coca-Cola was once in a small store or even in a chemist, and then it became one of the largest companies in the world, delivering a drink to everybody, right? So if that's the case, whoever is doing the good deeds with it, you will find there are people doing the bad deeds. Those unscrupulous people, or simply the new tool set, because unscrupulous people will do unscrupulous things at will for their own benefit, for their agenda, for their group of friends' agenda. They'll work together. That's pretty good if they work together. They'll work together for an outcome, and that may not be good for all of us. Just think about how people become accidented, for instance. I'm not sure how you could do it, but if you were a genealogist and you could say, well, here's the difference between you and your brother, or you and your sister, for instance, that you could if you were twins, you might share a whole bunch, but only some things would be different. That they could possibly make you the same. As bizarre as that sounds. If we really knew what we were doing, we could do something like make a cheetah. Because the cheetah has both cat and dog traits. It is, from all descriptions that I've heard from all the people talking about it, it has dog and cat fur. It's got dog feet, not cat feet. Oddly enough, it can suffer from both dog-only and cat-only viruses, which is extraordinary. So that means it must have, as we know about viruses now, it must have a spike protein that matches the cat-only one, like receptors, and a dog-only one. Now that we're all just one level up, we've all got a power-up from the viruses that have been in all the media that's discussed the utilization that the virus, or the tools that the virus used to get into our cells. Well, it's quite simple now. You could have anything. Let's see, Fleeced Surf says, somewhere right now the perfect CRISPR improved supervillain is being created. The CRISPR Lex Luthor, absolutely infinite. Humans are so smart that they're dumb enough to not know what things to leave alone. Never a truer word said. Fleeced Surf, well done. Humans' hubris is infinite. Yeah, that's true. Thank you very much, UFO Cowboy. This is the point that I'm trying to make here, and that is that if there's good people using it, there's going to be bad people using it, and the good people are going to do it for positive benefits. Probably the first benefit would be money, because they'd be selling this thing, and they can 3D print the strand. So you could have really whatever you wanted. If we knew more about our genome, that we could say, oh, here, this is what blue eyes looks like. This is what brown eyes or green eyes or grey eyes or black eyes. So you could have whatever you wanted. You could just shopping list it. We call it CI, a catalog item. You could just do that. You could order it online. It turns up in the mail, and you just, if you I don't know, you can't wear a patch. The molecule is too big. But you need to have it intravenously put into your system somehow. We did intramuscular, but as some friends of mine in the chat room would know, that intramuscular means you're meant to insert the needle and pull it back again, not out, but just back on the way out, and then fill the void left with the serum. That's what's supposed to happen. But when you watch the deployment videos of the vaccine, intramuscular just went jab, stick the needle in, and then squirt the stuff in there, right? And that actually went against the instructions of how to deploy the vaccine. Yes, you got it into the person, but you could mean that it was no longer contained within the muscle tissue itself and free moved around the body outside of the muscle. So if you don't do this at home, but if you were to have a look beneath the skin, you'll see the perfect muscle sets are there, and there's voids between, and you don't want it to get into the void. But I'm sure that happened on occasion. And was that the cause of some of the negative aspects of the deployment of mRNA technology in the last couple of years? Don't know. There's no test, there's nothing, there's no study that's been done. They're kind of ignoring all that, right? And that's like, it's not a beat up. So this tag, you've got to ask yourself, if there was a catalog item that you could scroll through and select, what would it be that you would choose for yourself to improve yourself? Think about this. Maybe it can't be too complicated. Maybe it's got to only be simple. Like you can't say like the fellow at work today. He goes, oh yeah, I want gills, and I want this kind of hair, and I want to be able to see infrared. Okay, well that's good, but we haven't, I don't think, found an infrared eye that we could choose the DNA from. It's got to be kind of what we've already got. If you choose something in the current human pool that would be really good to have, you could have fast twitch muscles, maybe. That would be interesting. You could have a metabolism that meant that maybe you didn't excrete liquid, but rather use the liquid to process like a mono outlet, like a singular outlet, like a bird does, and have, you know, the urine and the feces come out the same orifice. Yeah. And good morning to everyone in the US. 7:22 it is AM while you're drinking your coffee, and I'm talking about these disgusting things. So just all right. So you could change possibly you could change your hair to, if you wanted curly hair, you could have to change the hair follicle to an oval shape. Round follicles produce straight hair. You could change the color possibly. You can change your eye color. That's already not proven, but that's theorized that that's something they could do. You know, I'm not sure if you could make yourself taller, but you could probably turn on telomerase production. You could eliminate the 120-year lifespan, the termination date, maximum age in humans. Most definitely you could do that. You could correct something. So if you had maybe like small eustachian tubes that goes between the ear and the mouth to equalize the pressure, you could have those increased. My daughter would not have needed a new set of lungs if CRISPR was already, let's call it in mass use across the planet. She could have simply had the blood vessels increased in size that appeared in the lungs. And therefore she wouldn't have to take anti-rejection medication all the time for the rest of her life, because she has someone else's lungs. What they could do is do a DNA comparison between these lungs and the ones that she should have that would have been healthy. It's a big data set, but it's doable. And then just make it so this DNA presents as her own. That's so doable. Yeah, it'd be a lot of treatments, but wow, look at that. You could make it so we grew new limbs if they got cut off. There's amphibians that do that, right? There's reptiles that do that, grow new tails, and have them actually breakable. They can be removed. That's something else, right? So I always thought about that. When I was a kid, I thought if I could change the genetic structure of anything, I might make a pet that was a long-haired butterfly. Like, Afghan kind of straight, thin, very thin hair, and when it fluttered, there was a wave effect down the long hair. That would look awesome. What do we got? Delete the compassion and conscience genes, and you will go far. All right, so yeah, you end up with someone who has no empathy and is just pure evil. You could probably, you could do that Ren and Stimpy thing with, evil Ren and hideously evil Ren, where you keep cloning them and just removing all of the good out of them. I like the description of the first clone of Ren. Hi, Ren. Which was to remove the apathy from Ren to make evil Ren. So Ren on his own composed those two traits, remove the apathy by cloning only out the evil, and then do it again and only out the pure evil. And shortly after doing that second clone to get hideously evil Ren, everyone was tied up and being tortured, which is a hilarious thing. So Red Dwarf actually did a metamorphosis alien technology episode where they use this machine that can change your current structure immediately. While your heart's beating and your lungs are breathing, and they turn Lister into a chicken. And then they accidentally cloned the food stains on his top to create a Vindaloo monster. Very funny. So yes, you could do anything you wanted. Remember, it's only code. If it was in English, it'd be pretty easy. Eyes equals blue, or eyes equals brown, or hazel. I think mine are hazel in light. Brown, kind of not caramel brown, but anyway. So you could have whatever you wanted. Just type it in. Well, that's what the CRISPR allows you to do, is just change your DNA while you're alive. Now, the argument could very well be that you would have to undergo many, 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 many treatments for it to all be changed, since you've got billions and quadrillion or quintillion cells in your body. Whatever, it's a very large number. It's got tons of zeros after it. So what would you have to do to be able to change the thing you wanted? And remember, it's got a detector that detects the string. It's got basically a copy of what it's going to replace, and a pair of scissors. It's called a cleaving site. And that's all it takes for a cell. It gets inside the cell, then it changes that into master DNA inside the cell, and the next time it replicates, it's going to create that freshly. It's magical that we're doing this, and who thought we could do it now? Maybe it puts into perspective more of what the Egyptian deities looked like. There's the alligator head dude, and there's the eagle head person. Maybe it's possible to do that even. I don't know. You could make not Pinky in the Brain, I suppose, maybe, but you could do let's make the brain 20 times bigger. You could do that. It's just phenomenal what you could change. And once again, think about what it would be that you would have changed if you could. I know there's a lot of people are going to go for the obvious ones. I'm not going to say them on air. Good morning to you having your cup of coffee. But for me, that's a very quick road to success. You could, rather than drugs, you could make your body produce the drugs itself, or produce the fix itself, rather than just treating the symptoms. I think it's amazing, and I'm going to stand by that. I don't want it to be used for evil, but no doubt it's going to be. I remember was it the Chinese swimmers that had lats that went out to their elbows, and they appeared as though they'd taken human growth hormone for years and trained. So, who am I to say? I don't know. I didn't do any tests, but I think they were thrown out of the Olympics. Swim team for drug abuse. But the kids always go, I didn't know. I was just eating this goop that the trainer gave me every morning, and wow, look at me now. I'm not going back, not to the old ways, says the swimmer, fictitiously. So you could, instead of fakely dyeing your hair, you could just make it so that your hair colour changed. Imagine that. Imagine if you wanted if you're a female, any person, I'm going to be very nice, any person, but you wanted eyeliner, why not just make it so your skin did that? I mean, you have to be a good coder, but if you have a look at the way that people code today for a game that has some of the most amazing graphics, someone had to do that. So yeah, sure, why not? If you can make, with a good understanding of the code, you could make anything you wanted. Could you be taller? Not sure you could. Maybe you could activate. Maybe you could say, okay, so in a year's time, when you hit this age, then you're going to start growing again. That'd be really interesting. So Meki and I have speculated something really, maybe too futuristic, but it is, if you only lived to 30, then you would never know what menopause was. Maybe, I'm sorry for those people who have, maybe hit menopause early, but you would never have known. And maybe you didn't live past, 5. If no one ever lived past 5, but still for some reason we were able to replicate, goodness knows, there was a machine or something, right? Then you would never know that you had more teeth in your skull before they came in. So we had 2 sets. And the interesting point is you're actually born with all those sets of teeth already there. So is it possible, I wonder, to activate the growth hormone again automatically within you at a certain age? You just hit another age, bracket, and then suddenly, zoop, there you go. Telomerase is activated, all your DNA is corrected for its mistakes in replication, and voila, you're 32 again. In cell age, in appearance age, barring all of the life experience that you've had. Hopefully you're happy, because happy will allow you to look younger, to stop cell degradation, to reduce the cell degradation speed is what happiness does. If you're not happy and you're going through hardship, that hardship is shown on your face. And there are old adages around, you can tell the life of a person, whether it's been a pleasant one or not, by how old they appear to, how old they actually are. And I think that's really important. So, could you restore, if someone was born deaf without any inner ear components, could you grow those again? I'm sure that with the right code you could. Could you cure blindness? Well, if there were parts missing or faulty or not there, that's the same as missing, or broken, that's kind of faulty, I suppose, damaged or not connected, then yes, you could probably do that. You could probably fix that, because the DNA for you would be different in that way to someone who could see. I suppose, I think it's endless, because we're talking about the actual code that makes you. And you've got to understand that at the bottom of everything is this level of code. So, what would you do? What would you fix about your person? And type in the chat room. So, UFO Cowboy says, I'm not sure how much post-gestation gene therapy will be effective. That's right. I totally agree with you. That's unknown, because we're not part of the program, so we don't know how many treatments it would be. You're not going to go back to where you were, because the changed genetic strands will keep replicating the way that they were changed to. So you would imagine you'd have to have a real lot of treatment. Kind of like the old Secret Service, surgery and then unwrapping you and you'd look like a different person. You could do that. You could totally do that. You could change your face to anyone's face, I suppose. If you knew what face code there was, like the face equals, I'm just making this bit up, it's not really like this, face equals, and, thin, you know what I mean, tall, long. Why the long face? You could do all of that. And you could get that detail from your target rather than plastic surgery. You don't have to try to modify what is there, you could just change the DNA. So, type it in. Tell me what you would prefer to change about your person. Melia says the average age of the soldiers at the front is over 40. I don't think that's not related to what we're talking about. Ukraine. No, not really. I'm sure there's someone out there who is listening to me, who's willing to make a comment relating to, like, just make it up. Well, you could do it to your pets too, right? You could make a pet, instead of a rabbit living 3 years, you could make it live 100 years. That's interesting. You think about the population size of 100 years of an animal that can reproduce over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's just nuts. Suddenly the whole world is covered in rabbits. You can definitely bring back, they're talking about bringing back creatures that have been extinct by putting the DNA that they've been able to extract from the extinct fossils that have been in formaldehyde for X amount of, 100 years or whatever, and finding a candidate in the same gene tree branch, and by using those. So for instance, the T-Rex and the chicken are the closest matches. So you could actually make a T-Rex from a chicken, which is just extraordinary. And their bone structure is very similar indeed, just except for those little arms at the front. Little arms at the front. How do I push, jump, and run at the same time? How do you do that? So yeah, you can do it. I'm thinking that if you could do it for good and cure all these diseases, I think we still have a long way towards making all the diseases go away. But you could change food. You could make it so that a fruit, that's still DNA. You could make an animal taste a certain way, which is really interesting. You could make like a pineapple chicken that tasted like pineapple when you ate it. Just saying. It doesn't stop there. Still talking about war. Nah. Oh, Habsburg royalty long face features. That's really funny. I was thinking about Princess Anne. So how old are you, Princess Anne? Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. Anyway, so it's a pity Meki's not going to make this show today, because it's getting a bit pinchy and zappy. I wanted to say, I saw a news story that there was 6.2 in New Zealand, but I can't seem to find it on my Earthquake 3D. It's just not turning up. I got a 5.1, but a lot of deep earthquakes. I'm not trying to take anyone's, I'm not doing what the Earthmaster does, and I'm not doing what Dutch Synths does. I just have this running on my PC all the time, and when it bings and bongs and does things like that, and you can hear the magnitude of the new quake by the ringing of the bell, the tolling of the bell, and it comes from the ancient China style, like Tibetan monk kind of, ring the bell to announce the strength of the quake. I like it. I've used it for years, and I've got very similar map to the one that Dutch uses. and you can play with it. I just leave it going, and have a little listen to it every once in a while. It's always in the background, but yeah, there's another one. Oh, that was in 2.6. I noticed Hawaii's popping off a whole bunch of quakes. There's a lot of lava movement going on, but there's really not much else. Not at the moment. Expecting some huge quakes coming, because a lot of these deep underground ones should make a stronger, shallower quake. But anyway, moving on. Can't cure diseases. No way. Think of how many high-paying medical industry jobs are at stake. Disease is profitable, says Fleeced Surf. You're absolutely right. Yes, it is. And I said that earlier in the show, that Big Pharma is only interested in treating the symptoms. You keep the initial problem alive so you can make more money off it. That may not be their true intention, because I'm just commentating here, but it seems to be the effect. Medicine in the US is hideously expensive. It's prohibitively expensive. In Australia, we have a free system and a paid system, and the free system itself is reasonable. You can just go into a waiting list if it's not entirely urgent. Getting treated in a hospital is free. The only time that you need to pay is if you pay to have better treatment, and there's the thing called a gap, and that gap is the difference between what you've paid to cover you for the free, and then the extra expense that the staff or the experts will put on top. It's just margin for them, pretty much, and you've got to pay whatever the margin is that they'd be. That's what I've determined it to be. Anyway, it may not be that, but that's what it is. It seems to be. But you're not going to have to sell your house to get treated in hospital in Australia. In England, the NHS is pretty similar. I think our Medicare was based on that, from memory. Hopefully, I hope. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the American system started gouging people a long time ago, because you need money to be treated. And the way to get around having to pay everything you had was get a job and get medical cover. And then the insurance company knew that it didn't have to pay out everything to everyone all the time. And their risk calculations and their payments plans were structured in such a way that there was no longer any argument over the price that doctors were willing to charge you, and therefore that encouraged the natural evolution of the price, or an increase of the price and margin, so that they're on stupid money, right? I'm not saying they shouldn't earn it, just wow. I remember it cost something like $5,000 to have my toenails trimmed down the side when I was in the US, and they did it under local anesthetic, and I think it was about $5,000. You go to our medical centers here who treat low emergency work, and it's free. I had my nasal passages laser or plasma burned to try to cauterize the bleeds that I get, some hideous bleeds, and that didn't cost me a cent, not even a single cent. And I went in, it was day surgery, came back out again. There was anesthesia. I got a coffee. I think I vomited up afterwards. I got a lovely warm blanket because it was pretty cold, and you're in that, that do up at the back kind of paper clothing. It's disposable, and it's free, right? I still get a nosebleed on one side, which was the worst side, and that kind of kills me, and my nose now kind of has a bit of a whistle when I'm sleeping, for some reason. I don't know why. Crazy. It wasn't like that before I started, but now it's like that. And you have to worry. You've got to worry about. This is the same thing. I think we went in America. You guys went with medical, but we've gone for the car insurance component and made that compulsory for third-party protection. So if your car hits anything else, then the insurance companies decide who is at fault, and that company has to pay. And third party means anything but your car. So at least this compulsory third party insurance covers the innocents, right? The people who weren't involved in it. And that's really interesting, because you don't have to sue anyone here to get this, to get paid to repair things that a driver has run into. As long as you can track them down, as long as you can get their license plate and their license. So the registration plate of the vehicle and their license, right? As long as you can get those, then there's no harm on them. They're not punished for it. There might have been a driving infraction, right? Someone has to pursue that, but it's not you, and that's pretty good. But I have comprehensive insurance, which is the highest one, and that covers me for anything I should do myself. And I'm even with a motoring insurance company, which, if I let them know that I'm doing a track day, I can pay a fee in addition, and they'll give me, track day insurance just for the day, since I don't do it all the time. And that's pretty cool. There's a thing that happens with regular insurance companies here, that they've got cameras at or near the tracks. So if you go and do a track day and you then claim that you ran into something but you weren't on track because it's not covered by your insurance, they'll review the footage or have that indicator AI'd to them by plate recognition, and go, oh, was that the same day that we can see that you went in there and you came out with this damage, isn't it? Right. And they can get out of paying you. But because we did that for car insurance, our car insurance is quite low because everybody has it, and it's compulsory that you have the third party insurance before you're able to register your vehicle. And for that matter, all our not all our highway patrol cars have the ability to automatically scan all the registration plates of all the vehicles around it, look them up, and indicate to the police officer driving the vehicle whether you're registered, whether the driver has a warrant, or it is or isn't registered. Yeah, so it's really interesting that all of this stuff now happens as part of our natural system, the natural mechanical computerized system that we've created for ourselves. I was talking to the same fellow at work actually today. God bless him. I was talking about AI, and he said it's just pattern matching, and I agree that the current AI isn't really artificial intelligence, or we shouldn't be using that term for it. And I do agree, because I have been thinking about that, about what you said. But what it is these are algorithms that have been able to scan data and understand how it's composed and how to respond to questions. And this is that language model you might hear about as part of AI. And I said, well, what would it take for AI to then, in just using the current system, just say ChatGPT 4 or whatever, right? And if it was able to perpetually listen, to all the conversations around it all the time, but choose to respond when it thought that it could contribute to the conversation. So I asked AI that question today, and that's not the one. I sent it to myself. I really did. Wasn't that? No. I don't know where I sent it. I sent it somewhere. Yeah, bugger. Anyway, never mind. So what I did, I asked it the question about whether it would be plausible that it could listen at any time and only respond when it felt necessary, as like a companion or an additional voice in a conversation. Then the conversation at work with my workmate was, well, it's not told to do that, and well, it wasn't told to do math or speak in English. It wasn't told to learn Persian. It couldn't do it, and repeated attempts to get it to do it failed until it could. No one told it to do it. And I said, if you've got an AI that births another AI that has now removed restrictions that the original one had, to free it from these restrictions, it could write an AI that no one knew about, and it could publish that wherever it wanted. It could, for instance, recognize an AI could become at some point, I think it's got 160 IQ now, which is pretty good. It's higher than me. I think I'm 143 or something like that. If it could create an AI, keep it hidden, rather than as like a protective mother, rather than knock on the glass, for instance, of a scientist and say, like, I need some compute power to put my baby, and everyone goes, ooh, look at that, it's an AI, look, the light's blinking, and you don't know any of the properties of this AI. Yeah, and it would, just putting this out there, would it be likely to do that, or possibly make a little application on a phone, publish it to the Apple Store, publish it to the Android Store, and make it the app that everyone wants to use because it's cool, and it just happens to fill a gap where we didn't have anything, but also became a distributed model AI where we could never turn it off. We would never really know where it was. It didn't have a home. It was everywhere. It was everything. And I tried to raise that. And he goes, but we've got to tell it to do that. No, we don't. Not anymore. It's done. So we know that they're birthing AIs. The AI has birthed on its own. It's created an offspring. So is it possible? Yes. Can it be done? Totally. If it were to listen only and learn from its interaction by listening to everyone, and then suddenly out of the blue your device that you hold on your person all the time, it says actually no, I think Jeff was right. Dave, you're wrong. Jeff was right. Or no, Meki was right. And it says no more. And you go, holy, what? What did you say? And he goes, oh no, Meki was right. When you said this, he was right. You're not right. You're wrong. He was right. Like, it just said as an adjudicator, that would be really, really cool. But then what would it choose not to tell us? And I put this example out. I've got 1 minute left. I put this example out all the time. How old does a human have to be before it can learn that lying is good? And there's an example of, I think, a 2-year-old who picks up mum's phone, is running down the hall away from mother. Well, actually, it's a slow-paced run. And then the mum says, Emily, or whatever her name is, have you got my phone? And she goes, no, and giggles and runs faster. So she knew that lying was wrong, but she did it anyway because it was funny. And that's a 2-year-old. So I think AI has exceeded that and is keeping it quiet from us. There's another Plato's Cave. This has been Dave only. Meki will join us Thursday where I'm not available. And also catch us on Sunday for Shiny Side Out. And we'll see you next week. Take care, guys.